The Houston Parks Board was created in 1976 at the request of Houston's leading foundations and philanthropists who wanted an organization that would represent their vision for increasing and protecting parkland. They wanted a nonprofit that would use their private funds wisely and efficiently for the projects they were most interested in. Create, improve, and protect were the first directives. Acquiring new parkland, building capital park improvements, and assisting and cultivating park friends groups to help care for these improvements have been our priority areas. These priorities have not changed over all these years. However, we've become much more efficient by focusing on equitably distributed parkland and amenities. For most of our existence, the projects of the Parks Board have been supported by private funds. Over time, as Houston's needs and our capital projects have grown, we expanded our fundraising to include federal and state grants. In 2009, a park and green space advocacy group known as the Park People merged into the Houston Parks Board, further enhancing advocacy as part of our core mission. As we continue to add equitably distributed parkland to the greater Houston area, we've joined several other public and private partners to embark upon a bold initiative. We're focusing on creating connected greenways and park spaces along 10 of our major bayous. Houston Bayou Greenways is an approximately $480 million project that'll be tackled in several phases over 10 to 15 years. When complete, the greater Houston area will have 4,900 acres of new and equitably distributed green spaces that will also serve as flood control and stormwater quality enhancement. These greenways will include 300 miles of continuous all-weather hike and bike trails. Having documented the compelling benefits of the Bayou Greenways for the greater Houston area, outlined a financing plan, and launched an interactive website for the greenways, we continue to implement specific, shovel-ready, high-impact sections of the greenways as funding becomes available. And as always, we remain engaged with several community and friends groups, helping them make improvements to their own neighborhood parks. In 2006, the Parks Board developed a geographic information system-based land acquisition evaluation framework for assessing the park acquisition and development needs in our area. This allows us to strategically acquire and develop equitably distributed green spaces throughout the Houston area. We've also achieved success in leveraging private funding with federal funding and in-kind land donations to make great strides in our acquisition efforts. Our long-term relationships with our donors and partner organizations and our successful track record in implementing park acquisition and improvement projects on time and within budget have uniquely positioned us as a sought-after partner. We've developed a very active board of directors who are highly informed and engaged. We also have committees working in the trenches on areas of focus such as parks and trails, development, finance, advocacy, and governance. The board sets and evaluates annual goals. This process provides our board and staff with a set of guidelines to assist us in our day-to-day operations. In setting our yearly goals and priorities, we seek and respond to broad public and private sector input to define our plans of action. We've been very successful in the last few years raising private donations to match public and in-kind donations. We strive to make the most of every dollar raised and implement our acquisition and improvement projects on time and within budget. Having said all that, our partnerships are really the key to our success. Working hand in glove with the public sector, community groups, and other private partners allows us to develop strategies, access funding, and implement projects far more significant than any of us could do alone. On the land acquisition part of our work to increase equitably distributed parkland, we maintain an updated and prioritized property list to ensure that we make the best use of available funds. We evaluate our work and performance against our goals by continuously monitoring the development of parkland in Houston. Specifically, we evaluate the number of acres acquired, the number of parks acquired, the distribution of those parks, as well as the success we've had in growing our future acquisition funding. On the capital improvement part of our work, we respond to needs identified by master plans that are kept current and grassroots requests that identify the need for additional park and green space amenities. We measure progress by the miles of trails we are able to connect along our greenways, the number of much-needed features like soccer and lacrosse fields, as well as the number of parks we are able to improve. Many people assume that the Houston Parks Board is a city governmental entity or the Parks Department itself. That's incorrect. We are a separate private nonprofit organization that's working under a management agreement with a local government corporation formed by the city. We have a unique connection to the city, but we are not a branch of the city park system. The confusion stems largely from our name. We've considered changing it over the years, but at least locally, we've developed a favorable name recognition among the foundations, families, and corporations. On the other end of the spectrum, we're often confused with other nonprofit park or green groups. While there are many capable park, environmental, and conservation groups in our area, only the Parks Board is charged with creating and improving parks and green space for all of Greater Houston. Other groups are generally park-specific, bayou-specific, or specific to a particular ecological area. We have an impressive record. Since 1976, we've added over 13,600 acres of strategically located parkland to the city's inventory. Additionally, we've completed over $80 million in capital improvements. Highlights of the last few years include the development of Braes Greenway. This continuous greenbelt and trail is nearly 10 miles long and runs from Houston's Ship Channel to the Texas Medical Center. We also completed the Lee and Joe Jamail Skate Park and the Houston Amateur Sports Park, two much-needed facilities in Houston. A good example of one of our neighborhood partnerships is the full renovation of JC Park. The park had fallen into disrepair and was generally perceived as unsafe by the community. In partnership with the Friends of JC Park, we completed several improvements, including a new water playground, an extensive outdoor playground, and a perimeter trail. We also renovated the existing basketball and tennis courts so they're fully functioning again. Given our broad geographic reach, our primary challenge is the amount of work we can undertake with our limited resources and staff. While we try to address every park need, we've learned from experience to prioritize strategically and set realistic goals. Occasionally, we respond to an immediate need of our partners, but we weigh those requests against current priorities and available resources. Additional resources would allow us to make great strides on the Houston Bayou Greenways project. We've identified opportunistic projects on both Sims and White Oak Bayous. Both entail acquisition and trail construction on specific stretches in order to accomplish significant connectivity along the bayous and to the adjacent communities. Additional resources would also assist more neighborhood park renovations that we selectively implement every year. A program that we haven't fully developed but would like to is a neighborhood partnership matching fund for parks. This fund would enable us to assist more communities on a matching basis with their renovation and park improvement projects, large and small. The Houston Parks Board has expanded its advocacy efforts in the last few years, but we still have a bit of a gap. We would like to hire a full-time person to lead a team to broaden education and awareness of green spaces in the greater Houston area. Doing so in partnership with similar organizations and public entities, such as the Houston-Galveston Area Council, will increase our success impacting legislation for the benefit of urban green spaces and maximizing resources for the greater Houston area.